So rather than trying to figure out each and every person's maximum willingness to pay, we could instead charge different groups of people different amounts based on some understanding of how members of that group are likely to respond to changes in price. So for an example, an education discount does this really well. Most college students, as you probably know, are broke. Because of this, you tend to shop around more than people who aren't in college. The same thing is true with senior citizen discounts. Because most senior citizens are retired, they have more time to shop around and are more likely to be price sensitive than their younger counterparts. So what do? We give these groups a discount and charge the rest of the people full price. But these are just forms of price discrimination. They're not necessarily meant to help you, the little guy, out, or to help old people and thank them for their service or anything like that. They're literally just means of separating a population into price sensitive and price insensitive. In order to successfully price discriminate, the seller must meet 3 conditions. Okay, so number 1, you must be able to distinguish buyers who are with different reservation prices or elasticities of demand. Okay? So in other words, for number 1, you have to be able to tell which group of people is more likely to respond more strongly to a change in price. Number 2, you must be able to prevent resale from the low price group to the high price group. Okay? So in other words, you have to be able to prevent arbitrage. And then the third and final one is that you must somehow manage resentment. The customers who pay the high price are more likely to resent the customers who pay the low price. So you have to somehow manage this resentment. So let's think about education discounts real quickly. Can we distinguish buyers who have different reservation prices or elasticities of demand? Yes, very easily. We simply ask you to show your student ID. And in that way, you prove that you are a college student. And by virtue of you being a college student, we know that you are likely to be much more price sensitive. Same thing with showing a driver's license or an AARP card in order to prove that you are a retired person. So in this case, all the seller is trying to do is distinguish whether or not you have a different elasticity of demand from a more normal, middle-aged kind of person. What about preventing resale from low price groups to high price groups? This one's actually really tricky, and we're going to come back to this one. In terms of managing resentment, giving education discounts and senior citizen discounts almost never breeds or engenders any type of resentment. In fact, most people think it's a good thing that we charge college students and retired people lower prices. And so in that case, there is no resentment whatsoever. Preventing resale is often the hardest of these 3 conditions to accomplish, and is often the reason why we don't see as much price discrimination as we might otherwise predict. After all, you as a college student could, if you wanted, stand outside the Apple store waiting for someone to come by looking to buy a new computer. You could then offer to buy it for them with your discount, which is usually about $100 off, and then sell it to them for $50 more than you paid, which would be $50 less than that person would have paid. You save them 50 bucks and you get to pocket $50 for your troubles. Talk about a win-win. There's nothing legally stopping you from doing this, so why isn't it done? The reason is because the Apple Store would catch on to what you were doing and would eventually refuse to sell to you. Have you ever noticed that you can change pretty much anything on an airline ticket except for the name of who's flying? Why is that? Well, because if you could change the name of the person who's flying, we would expect every single ticket to be purchased months in advance and then resold by some party that was not the airline. So by preventing you from changing the name on your ticket, what we're really doing, or what the airlines are really doing, is preventing you from selling it when you could buy it at a low price and sell it at a high price. Or we can even think about pharmaceutical drugs. Have you ever noticed that it's illegal for you to buy prescription drugs from someone who's not a pharmacist working in a pharmacy? Now, obviously, part of this is to prevent prescription drug abuse, particularly among opioids, but also because pharmacies will typically charge different customers different prices for the same medication, and they don't want the low price group reselling the drugs to the high price group. Or we can think about even more innocuous examples. So have you ever noticed that adding whipped cream at Starbucks makes the price go up by quite a bit? That's another form of price discrimination at work. There, Starbucks is making you self-select into a different group of customers. Basically, they're offering a high-priced version of the same basic product and separating out the customers who are most willing to pay for the fancy coffee and who are therefore less price sensitive from the customers who are less willing to pay for fancy add-ons who are more price sensitive. The exact same thing can be said about the different models of iPhone in any given year. The iPhone 12 Pro isn't really all that much better than the iPhone SE. It has a few more components to it, sure, and a few other features and add-ons, but in terms of its overall ability to take pictures, send text messages, make phone calls, surf the web, it's pretty much evenly matched.